How do you translate algebraic expressions? Let's find out. Hello everyone, and welcome to the mythical world of math. My name is Zach, and today we're going to be talking about how to translate algebraic expressions into words and vice versa. So let's get to it. So, the first thing that you have to know when you are translating algebraic expressions is the vocabulary associated with all the symbols that we use in math. There are 4 basic operations in math: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Each of these operations have lots of different words that all refer to those symbols. This list is not comprehensive, but it is a list of the most commonly used ones and the ones that you'll see most often. So when we see these symbols in an expression, we can use any of these associated words to translate that expression into words. Now, there are a couple of special cases that I want to bring to your attention. The words more than and less than are very special because they both have the word than attached to them. Than actually switches the order in which you do the addition or the subtraction. Now, while this does not matter in the case of addition, because addition is a commutative operation, it does matter when it deals with subtraction, less than. So I find it's just best to do it in both cases, so that way you don't have to memorize 2 different types of scenarios. So when you see the word than, just remember to switch the order of the expression. Another special case are the words twice and half. Now, twice is a special type of multiplication operation because it specifically means to multiply by the number 2. Half, very similarly, is a specific division operation, and it means to divide by the number 2. Now, the last thing that you guys need to remember is when you see a variable in an expression. A variable is really just a letter that represents an unknown type of number. So when we translate that into words, we simply write a number in place of the variable. So let's take a look at some examples on how to translate expressions into words. The expression that you see here has lots of different ways that we can write it out in words. I'll give you all a second to figure out how you would translate it into words, and then I'll show you what I came up with. The easiest way to translate this into words is to simply just say 2 times a number plus 5. It's the easiest way. It's not really complicated. You're simply translating each letter and symbol and number in order that you see them. Another just as easy way, you could say twice a number increased by 5, or twice a number plus 5. Okay? We are simply taking that 2x and we're turning it into twice a number because we're multiplying by the number 2. A much more complicated way to translate it, but still valid, is by using the word more than. But if we're going to use the words more than, remember, because of that word than, we actually have to switch the order in which we say it. So instead of saying 2 times a number more than 5, we actually have to say it the other way, 5 more than, and I chose to use the product of 2 and a number, because product is another word that means multiply. Let's take a look at another example. I'll give you guys just a second to figure out how you would translate this into words. So I think the easiest way to translate it is in the order in which you read it. I would say a number divided by 4 minus 2. It's easy, it's simple, and it's in the order in which you read the symbols and numbers. Another easy way is to use the words quotient. The quotient of a number and 4 decreased by 2. When we use the words quotient, whatever comes next, the next 2 things are the 2 things that are going to be divided. So when I say the quotient of a number and 4 were the next 2 things, so those are the 2 things that get divided. And then I chose decreased by 2. Another way to say it, now this is a little bit more complicated, is the difference of So the next two things that we say are going to be subtracted. A number divided by 4, that's actually one thing and 2. All right? So the difference of a number divided by 4 and 2. The second thing didn't happen until after the word and. And then another way that we can say it, again, using those words less than, and because we're going to use less than, we actually have to switch the order. We can say 2 less than a number divided by 4. All right, let's take a look at another example. All right, I'll give you guys a second to figure out how you would translate this into words. So I think the easiest way would be to simply just say 8 minus 5 times a number. All right, it's in order of the letters and symbols. All right. Another way you can say it is 8 take away the product of 5 and a number. Take away means subtract, and product of whatever comes next is going to be times a number and 5. Again, using those words less than, you could say 5 times a number less than 8. Now I said that backwards, again, because of that word than means to switch the order in which you read them. And finally, the last way you could say it, and again, there's all sorts of ways, you could say the difference of 8 and 5 times a number. Okay, that's a little bit more of a complicated way because you're using the difference of, so two things have to come next, but then you're saying 5 times a number is one of those things. It's a little confusing, but that's another way that you can say it. There are other ways that you can translate these expressions. These are just some of the simple examples that I came up with. Again, don't ever make it harder on yourself. I always just say choose the easiest option, which is just to translate it in the order that you read it. So let's go the other way. Let's take something that's written in words and translate that into an algebraic expression. So what we have here is 7 less than the product of a number and 9. Now there's only one way to translate this. If you're reading carefully, you'll see the words than, less than. That means minus is going to be in the middle because of less, but than actually means to switch the order of the two things. So instead of 7 coming first, 7 is actually going to come after 9 times a number. And I just chose the letter A because I want you guys to understand you can choose any letter that you want. X is most commonly used, but I used A here. So 7 less than the product of a number and 9. That's 9A minus 7 in that order because of than. All right, let's take a look at another one. The quotient of 2 and 3 plus 4 times a number. So you'll notice the quotient of, because I said quotient of, whatever two things come next are going to be divided. All right, so 2 and 3 were the next two things, so that's what gets divided, plus 4 times a number. So plus 4x is one letter that you can use. All right, and let's take a look at one more final example. 2 times the sum of a number and 11. Now this one is extremely tricky. Okay, this is one of those tricky situations. 2 times the sum of. Because of how that is written, the sum of has to happen first. And because that has to happen first, we actually have to put that in parentheses. All right, so it would actually look like this. 2 parentheses x plus 11. Sum means addition, and we actually have to add x and 11 before we can multiply it by 2. All right, so we need those parentheses in there to separate the 2 from everything else. I hope this video helped you better understand how to translate expressions into words and vice versa. If it helped you out, please be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.